weekends and so forth. Looks like we still got a lot of people doing the telecommute.
Yep. And it's hot here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All around. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
And once Jennifer gets in, I think we're good. We just need Roberto. Okay, we're official. Uh-oh, Jennifer dropped off. So Tom, yeah, I made those changes that you requested to the teams and so forth.
Okay.
Looks like it's shaping up pretty good.
Yeah.
I got a thing on my phone that said this meeting is being recorded. You know that, right? That's intentional.
Yes, we have to broadcast live on YouTube, so that way, you know, people can watch while this is being simulcast to meet FOIA standards, and then we archive the meeting on the museum's website.
Okay, just wanted to make sure you knew.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Jennifer, you made it.
Yes, by the skin of my teeth. I'm like, sorry.
That's okay. We have everyone here except Roberto. He and I exchanged a couple emails earlier. He was using his iPhone, so I don't know what his current status is.
Yeah, and I may be moving around because I'm in the middle of something. So I'll be going back and forth between my printer and my office. If y'all see me moving, that's what it is.
Okay.
So I guess
this is Lisa. I apologize. I'm on my phone as well. Use computer.
Okay. All right. Well, I know Jennifer has a number of distractions, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So Jennifer, it's okay with you?
yes.
All right. So
Meeting to order.
Okay, great. So I had shared a very simple agenda here, and Jennifer, I'll take minutes.
Thanks, Joe.
But I just so I understand everyone's desires here. You know, we're going to use this opportunity to make sure that the new executive committee is all up to speed, and that new I don't know new situation with the expiring executive order is something that we cover. So I'll just walk through this, and if there's anything that anyone else wants to cover, please let me know. Upcoming board meetings, August 20th and 21st. I still think it would be a good idea if the executive committee met on the 20th. Normally that would be Friday at 4 p.m. So I will send out an email reminder about that in part 2, because not only do we need to prep for that meeting, but that's my evaluation month as well. Next meeting is November 19th and 20th with the executive committee on the 19th, full board on the 20th. February at this point remains to be determined. We'll need to discuss that because traditionally that's when we attempt our interactions with the General Assembly. So we'll need to come up with a legislative agenda and so forth. But that's something we can hit later on. New board members, as you know, Mark Buss and Ann Burnett have joined. They attended last meeting. They've also, Jennifer, they've made committee requests. So that'll be in your board chair document that I should be getting to you maybe this afternoon, if not tomorrow. So in further news, Mukunda Abdul Baki, she was reappointed. So there should be no changes to the board in the upcoming months. Let me see here. All right, a couple of things. After this executive order, we've got some changes, and I did talk with Audrey. And Audrey, I think I went into the men's room and wept afterwards because I was having a hard time trying to really kind of piece it all together in such a way that I understood what's going on. So I'm in my document that I am going to share with Jennifer, I put together 4 bullet points, and I fully understand that these may need to be edited, but I thought this would be a good time to go through to make sure everyone understands what's going on. So the desire was that we would communicate our experiences with Zoom during the pandemic and how it increased efficiency. So we do have a letter that hasn't been submitted yet, and that's something that we can do here after this meeting. That being said, the idea is that we are supposed to go back to in-person board meetings, and members can avoid earning an absence by Zooming in so long as that they have 3 days notice. And if there happens to be 3+ members in a Zoom together at the same location, that location must be publicly accessible. A majority of the board has to be meeting in person to attain a quorum, and those who Zoom cannot vote. If we do use this method where we allow people to Zoom in without losing an absentee situation, we will have to, and my office can handle this, we can submit an annual report to the FOIA Council by the 15th of December of each year, documenting the remote participation, which would include, and in the minutes and so forth, we would record who attended remotely, what their location was, and so forth.
Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it help for me to just summarize so that you don't have to, because all that's really changed is we've reverted back. That the provision that you're discussing right now is the previous provision for electronic meetings for state bodies. So it is how the law existed before the pandemic. And that the thing that is a little bit strange about it is that provision had just been changed prior to the pandemic. And so it had not been in effect long enough for a lot of agencies to actually use it yet. But it basically, it's the same, you basically you had before the pandemic 3, now you have 4 bases for participating electronically. 3 of them are personal to the board member. 1 of them is board-wide. So the 3 that are personal to the board member, 2 existed before, and those of you who have been through my FOIA training may remember this. It's the personal matters exemption, which is capped at 2 times per calendar year, where you say, for a personal reason, I can't attend. You just have to notify the chair in advance of the meeting, including right up at the time of the meeting. And so long as your board has a policy that permits participation for that basis electronically, you are permitted to do that 2 times per year. You do have to state the reason with particularity, and it has to be in the minutes. Second basis, personal to the board member, medical or disability. That's not capped, but it does have to be stated with particularity. Third reason, this is new, and this was just in the most recent general
Can I
assembly.
ask a question?
Yep.
A question about the medical exemption. Does that include if you are working with a disabled family member or somebody
That's
like
what I
that?
was just going to get to. So this was it didn't originally. It was a medical. You know, if you suddenly woke up
It's
with
only
the
you
flu,
personally.
If you suddenly woke up with the flu and you couldn't come, you were permitted to use that exemption before. But the new exemption, the new personal to a board member exemption number 3, is the General Assembly added language that if you have to care for a family member for medical reasons that are not limited to COVID or anything like that, and the illness of that family member makes it impractical for you to attend, you can cite that provision. And there's also not a cap. I don't think. I need to look again, but I don't think that one is capped. Now, those three all require the board to have an existing policy that permits participation by board members on one of those three bases. You do have a policy. It needs to be updated so it has the medical for a family member reason, and so it also has the proper code provision. But all three of those require the board to have a policy. The last basis is not personal to the board member. It's particular to state agencies, state boards. And that is the electronic meeting exception. That's the meeting that was extended and kind of expanded during COVID, because the difference was all of these bases before COVID required a quorum of the board assembled on site. During COVID, through the Appropriations Act, that requirement was lifted. And that lifting now will remain. If there is ever another state of emergency, that's now ensconced in the regulation, in the actual statute. So that's another change, that we wouldn't have to go through this rigmarole again to get that exception in the code where it wasn't before. But you now do have to have, if there's no state of emergency, in order to have that electronic meeting provision attached, you actually do have to have a quorum assembled on site. And the parts that were fairly new at the time that COVID hit are what Joe was just referring to in terms of these record keeping requirements. So there's an annual report that has to be submitted to the General Assembly that talks about how many times this code provision was used, who availed themselves of it, whether any members of the public participated or spoke, all of those kinds of things. Now, all of those requirements were also in existence at the time that we were dealing with COVID. The only difference was we didn't have an on-site quorum requirement. So most boards have already figured out the ways that they need to kind of, that's why we wound up using Zoom and YouTube. That's why we wound up having these requirements to post things contemporaneously. The reason that people wound up using Zoom and other technologies that provided for video was because the code provision contains and has always contained a requirement that the public be given a contemporaneous ability to see anything at the same time that the board is seeing it, unless it's otherwise privileged. So those are the kinds of things that have to be done. Now, the one thing that hadn't been tested and that hadn't really been figured out was that because there was this requirement for an annual report, the fact that it was not capped, it was unclear if perhaps one reason that this report might be going was to see or have a record of what board members are actually making the trip to an agency, making the trip to be live versus ones that are participating. I have no idea if that's something that's being tracked or reflecting on board members at all or anything like that, but that's a requirement that's in the reporting that you have to provide every December about the number of times that the board has availed itself and who was remote and that kind of thing. So it is something that, because it is not capped, if you know far enough in advance that you're going to need to do it, then you can do it. And I have had situations where I've represented other entities who, for whatever reason, a member of that entity was actually living out of state or overseas for a period of time during the meetings taking place. And that was the provision that we used because we knew that wasn't going to change. We knew we weren't going to fly that person in every time. And so we would, post the notice and that kind of thing. There's also sometimes a misconception that you have to post publicly the address where the board member is remote under this provision. That's not actually true unless the location is open to the public. So, and it has to be open to the public if you have 3 or more board members who are participating from that site. So if you, for example, had somebody, in a meeting room at a university library and all 3 of you decided to meet up there, you'd need to have in the notice the address for that location and have it be open to the public. But otherwise, if it's, a home or something along those lines, that address doesn't have to be posted. So that's a very, and I'm sorry, Joe, that it is so cumbersome and I've had to explain it so many times that I thought it might just be easier if I jumped in and talked about it.
No, very good. Very good. Okay, so I'll look at the board policy.
Mhm.
I can provide some suggested pros to update it. And then that's something, as long as Jennifer and the rest of the board is okay with it, we can go ahead and address that at the August meeting. Okay. All righty. Thank you, Audrey.
Mhm.
So that was kind of 2C and D at the same time. The changes now that this executive order is expiring, as well as the updates to FOIA. So hopefully that's something we resolve by August.
So Joe, before we leave this topic behind, what do we want to do with that letter that you and I drafted? At one point, we talked about that coming from the executive committee, and I'd be happy to make a motion to that effect, just to document our experience during the pandemic and with the opportunity to do virtual meetings, in particular, how much it's increased our attendance, including the opportunity to do more committee meetings. And I haven't fully gotten the statistics on that, but I think we've held a lot more committee meetings than we have in the past, simply because of that opportunity to participate electronically. So do we still want to submit that letter? I would move that we do. And I don't know if everybody has the language of that letter, Joe, but if you would be willing to read it, that could be part of the motion as well.
To read the letter now?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, I think I would like to see it go out on behalf of the executive committee. So I would like to have us vote on that. And obviously, in order to vote on that, I think people need to understand what the letter says. I think it's pretty straightforward, though.
Okay. Hang on one second. I'm going to have to load this up.
While Joe's doing that, can I ask a question about the new rules? Because that was a lot. So from what I understood, if we're meeting in person and people Zoom in, they cannot vote. Is that even if they have one of those exceptions? Is that correct?
I need to look at the provision again. I was not aware that they were not able to vote. They have to vote by roll call, but I don't recall that there was a provision that they could not vote. Joe, were you getting that from something I had said, or were you getting that from the handout that I sent to you? I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
You gave me some suggestions to update the letter. And I'm sorry, I was looking while you guys were discussing. So you gave me something in late May.
Okay.
Let me see here.
Because that would be a change. Ordinarily, they were able to vote. They just had to go ahead and vote by roll call.
Okay.
So it would be. I'll double check that, but I don't think it's a requirement that the folks who are participating remotely cannot vote. So long as you have it now. If you don't have a quorum on site, then you can't take any action items. You do have to have your quorum on site to take any action items at all, which is voting. But generally, the folks that are participating remotely would be able to vote remotely.
All right, so you can't have a quorum by Zoom.
No, you cannot have a quorum by Zoom.
Correct.
You have to have a physical quorum on site. Correct. And you also can't have a combined quorum. Like sometimes people will ask, well, if we have two sites, could the two sites between? No, it has to be the primary site has to have a quorum of the body.
Okay, and one more dumb question. So it sounds
No
like
dumb questions.
Okay, sounds like we can have the physical meeting in person quorum. Some people dial in. Hopefully they can, if with good exceptions, hopefully they can vote. And then it sounds like we also have the option of doing it the way we have been doing it, of having an electronic meeting if we want to do that. Or is that just during an emergency?
No,
Like
that's fully electronic. Fully electronic is only during a state of emergency.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
any of these provisions require a physical quorum to be assembled, unless there's a state of emergency.
Okay, thank you so much. I get it now.
Sure. It's confusing.
Okay, I've got a draft of the letter here. It's a few paragraphs. It's not very long. Audrey, I understand that this version here may still need to get a couple of tweaks from your comments here.
Okay.
But basically, the draft is the Board of Trustees of VMNH voices its continued support of internet-based platforms such as Zoom for holding meetings, which would include internet-based participation and in-person participation from board meetings during or while with the governor's executive declaration regarding the pandemic. The board of VMH adhered to the safety protocols and conducted all meetings remotely. All legal procedures were followed, etc. The end result was effective meetings involving the VMNH board, responsible use of its budget, and the museum's meetings involving the VMNH budget and the museum's strategy and direction. Participation in quarterly meetings and committees by board members has increased and less cost to the agency resulted. We anticipate reduced participation by board members when the emergency declaration expires. Like so many boards, the VMNH Board of Trustees is dispersed over a wide geographic area spanning Martinsville, Roanoke, Waynesboro, Richmond, and Washington, D.C. Previous board members also represented Hampton and Farmville. Expenses included travel, per diem, lodging. We strongly urge Virginia to keep an option open to allow geographically distant board members to participate electronically in committee and full board meetings with no penalty to their attendance, and that members participating in this way contribute to the board's quorum. Of the past 12 board meetings, the 5 held during the governor's emergency declaration, which involved remote participation, saw 83.1% of board member attendance, whereas the other 7 held prior without remote attendance as an option saw a 67.3% participation rate. So that's the bulk of the letter. The one thing that we were going to add to that was, and I probably haven't, and I just haven't added it to the draft, is the actual number of committee meetings that were held in their attendance as well. So Tom, does that provide for you the description of what we're trying to communicate here?
Yes, it does. And I don't know that we necessarily need to include the committee summary. I wanted to include that for the annual report, which is something that I've agreed with Jennifer to prepare for the August meeting, but I don't know that it needs to include it in that letter. I think the attendance statistics alone speak for themselves. I would only add that at the front end there where we say the board, we are just going to have to edit that to say the executive committee of the board, because we won't have a board meeting to approve it as a full board. But I think it's more important that it go out in a timely fashion and that we not wait until August for that letter to go out. And so I would encourage us, and I know the motion hasn't been seconded yet, but given a second, that we approve sending this letter out on behalf of the executive committee.
I second your motion, Tom.
Can we replace Washington, D.C. with Northern Virginia? We don't have any board members who are non-Virginians who live in D.C., do we?
Roberto?
Does he live in Northern Virginia or the district?
Northern Virginia, McLean, Tyson's.
Okay, so let's
Yeah,
put Northern Virginia then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I got it.
So is there any other discussion of the motion? Hearing none, do we need to do a roll call vote on the motion?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. Do you want to go down the list, Joe?
Sure. I'll call out your name and you can vote on the motion as articulated. So Tom Benzing,
Aye.
Lisa Murner,
Aye.
Nathan Sanford. Nathan? I got a visual thumbs up from him. Roberto?
Aye.
Thank you. And I think, Jennifer, we are unanimous.
Yes, and I'm an aye as well. I don't know if I have to aye since I seconded. Okay, so motion passes.
Okay. All right, I'll work to formalize this and edit and so forth.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Jennifer, any other discussions on FOIA or our meeting changes post-pandemic?
I don't think so.
Okay, last part of this section of the agenda is just to remind everyone we have the executive director's evaluation. I have an evaluation instrument that was provided for me, so I am providing a document, and I should get that out to the full executive committee at the end of the month. Okay. Jennifer, is it okay to move on to part 3 of the agenda, the major projects and their quick updates?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just one point on that. It does need to go to the full board of trustees, right? Your report, I think this time we said we would go send that out to the full board.
I think in the past I'd submit it to the executive committee and then they, or no, I'm sorry, you're right. You are correct. Submit to full board. Thank you for that, Tom.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So for part 3 of the agenda, the major projects, VMNH Waynesboro detail design, we're in good shape. We should have that money available to us, including the amount on July 1st. That's in a couple of days here. Just so everyone knows, we have a Waynesboro Advocacy Committee meeting next Tuesday. One of the things that we're going to be discussing is the composition of, let me see here, we have 6 design teams. We have these teams broken down into major areas of museum design. So one is visitor services, the other is building design, exhibits, science lab, classroom green technology, landscape, and then I have one that I call curatorial advisors. So basically what we want to do is to create small teams that would represent the board of trustees, the museum staff, the foundation board, as well as some community participation. And these people would represent a core group on each of these teams. The curators and associated staff would act essentially as advisors to each of these teams where needed. Each team will have one staffer that's assigned to handle logistics. Jonathan Martin and I would both kind of act as sort of in an ex officio capacity on each team to ensure proper communication. The idea is that all of these teams will meet together at one meeting. And the idea is to articulate the needs of the museum and the community so that way we have one coherent message to give to the architects that we select. Then when we do select an architect, the design teams will initially meet with them, again, to ensure that the design teams know exactly what we want. We want to make sure to hold ourselves in a position where we're going to get exactly what we want, as opposed to, you know, going into design meetings with architects and design firms and have them articulate to us what they feel we need. Now, as far as our selecting design teams, we have an RFP that's, I'm sorry, selecting an architect to take the lead on the project. We have an RFP that will be going out. We're working with Department of General Services to ensure that it has everything that is required. So the staff will be organizing the search for the architects, and we'll be utilizing the participants of the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee to interview in person the candidates for detailed design. Please remember that with detailed design, this team that we hire will be with us all the way through the build. And so detailed design is 18 months. After that, the hope is that we get moved into the museum, I'm sorry, to the state's capital pool. And with that, we can proceed towards having the detailed design translated into the final documents needed to begin construction. So with that, despite the fact that we have the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee and that we have design teams being formed here, we are going to, of course, be keeping communication open. We want people to participate in these design discussions as much as you feel that you can. So we'll have more after next Tuesday's meeting with the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee. And basically, I'm saying from my standpoint, I think we've got a process in place to get this work started expeditiously and get it done during the 18-month time frame. Any questions at this point?
I have a question about the selection of the firm that we're
Yeah.
going to do. And I'm assuming that, I think we empowered the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee to help in that selection process. Do you think we're going to be ready to make a recommendation to the full board in our August meeting on what firm we're going to select, or is that going to be later than that?
It's going to be close, to be blunt. It really depends on, again, the reason we're working with General Services is that, frankly said, and just discussing things with them, if they work closely with us during the process of detailed design, they're not going to be sitting there talking about what the building should look like or, giving input on the exhibits, but they're going to periodically check on the progress. If they can basically tell us along the way that we need to make certain adjustments to aspects of the building or to any other portion of the operation, they can do that along the way. It'll save us time in the long run. However, kind of getting them on board, it might just take us a couple extra weeks of work. And then, of course, the state has the various minimum amounts of time that we announce the selection of the team. So to have a selection fully in place by mid-August is going to be really tight. We'll be shooting for that, but there's just no guarantee at this point.
And I don't remember, Joe, whether we needed board approval for that, or is that something that you can do on your own with your staff?
I believe we voted on that a couple of board meetings ago. I can pull the minutes out and share that with the group if you like.
No, I mean, like when we selected the firm for the preliminary design, did that have to go to a board vote?
No.
It didn't. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay.
Yeah, so
it's just pro forma to inform the board that this is happening, not necessarily to get their approval on it.
That is correct. And what I'd like to do, and work with the advisory committee on this, is that to continue our momentum with the community, we will want to invite the selected firm and their partners to come to Waynesboro. And we would like to invite people who've supported us in the past or people who could support us in the future to meet them, shake some hands and so forth, and just kind of get that sense of excitement that we're really moving this project forward within the community. So we'll keep everyone up to speed on these different steps as they come along. So after next week's meeting, we'll issue an email about the teams. If you are on one of the teams and don't want to be on one of the teams, that's okay. Just let us know. We can edit that. If you're not on a team and want to be, we can put you on. However, if you're not specifically listed on any one team, we still invite you to participate in the scheduled meetings. All right. So bottom line, I think we're in as good a shape as we could possibly be at this point. We've got a couple other capital projects. I'll just kind of skip down to them based upon what I provided in this agenda here. We just found out today that we made good progress on the energy savings improvements for the Starling Avenue building, utilizing the Mines, Minerals, and Energy issued grant dollars. So we now have a project description that, and this was just this afternoon that we got this all worked out. We've got a project that will include a break-even cash flow, which would include solar panels, HVAC retro commissioning to improve how we serve our audiences and crowds. It would involve one 2-vehicle EV charger and some other smaller items such as some more efficient refrigeration and LED lighting retrofits. The total cost is about $1.5 million. The initial investment for that will come from the grant. It'll have a 15-year payback. And in anticipation of questions, I'm not sure if I can, since I'm just learning about this, I'm not sure I can replay the information precisely here, but basically the size of our project, in particular the solar, is based upon a number of factors such as the size of the building and also on whether we could participate in a community buyback program. Martinsville does not do a buyback program, and our building is not that large. So that gets calculated into how large the solar array is. Offhand with my notes, I don't have a percentage of what our electricity bill will be reduced based upon that solar, but it should be a significant reduction either way. And so as we're finalizing all this, we can again share this information. But basically in-house, we're very excited about this. We think this is going to be a good start to that building improvement project. Related, we'll skip to the G.N.S. Adams Education Pavilion. We've done everything that we can. We have final drawings submitted to the state. We're just basically still waiting on the green light. It's been a bit of a frustration because that's what we've been reporting now for, I think, a few board meetings in a row. However, in our communications with the architect and with our colleagues in Richmond, everything's fine. We're just waiting for the process to play out. But staff are ready. We've got a plan in place to modify the Hall of Ancient Life, to prep for contractors coming in to tear out the existing concrete and to build the new platform and the canopy. So we're ready to go with that. Once that is done, the contractor will then install new stairs for us that will meet building code, unlike the existing ones that we inherited with this building when it was built in 2007. I think that's what I have for capital projects at this point. Regarding detailed planning, the energy efficiency improvements, and the pavilion. Does anyone have any questions? All right, the last bit is I'm really going to kind of just broaden more out to our day-to-day operations. We go back to full-time operation Thursday, that's July 1st, start of the new fiscal year. We will be open to the public Monday through Sunday, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 4, and on Sunday, 12 to 4. If people are still in the building past 4 o'clock, they can stay. We're just simply closing the box office at that point. We're going to be keeping some pandemic-related responses in place, such as where we have, some of our public interactions, such as the box office. We're still kind of setting up, keeping up plexiglass barriers. We no longer are going to be doing food service here. We never really made a lot of money on it, and it was very labor intensive. And with all else considered, for the time being, we just feel it's best to partner with local restaurants. We're trying to get them to offer up savings and stuff. It's always a tough road to hoe with that, but we'll see where it goes. We still have our enhanced sanitation in-house in terms of cleaning galleries and other public areas and high touch and high traffic areas. We are allowing staff to work with their supervisors where appropriate to have a certain percentage of their time telecommuting. So we're documenting all that. We've got the telecommuting forms filled out for each of the staff. It's not that many, but there are some. And I'm reviewing each one of those to ensure it's something that's mission specific. So while the operation will look a little different, we're pretty much going back to the full swing of things on Thursday. Being open Tuesday through Sunday, I will just remind everyone, however, we will be open for regular business hours for the staff on Mondays, just closed to the public. And we think that's going to be advantage because it's going to give us a chance to do everything from deeper cleans to maintenance of the building in public areas, as well as updates of the exhibits. So with that, a couple of events that are coming up. You probably already have these in your calendar, but I'll just refresh memories really quick. On July 22nd at 5:30 p.m., we're having the opening reception for it's a small exhibit, but it's very nice. It's called Lepidoptera, or the Butterflies and Moths of the World. So we have an opening reception on the 22nd at 5:30 p.m. It'll kind of be our first kind of re-engagement with our membership. Just following that on the 24th, we're going to have a bug day at the museum. So that'll be 10 to 4 o'clock on the 24th. And so it's going to be a small scale opportunity for us to, again, engage our membership, engage our supporters in the community on a relatively small scale. And then as long as everything continues the way it is, I know we hear things about Delta variants and so forth. We are still prepping to have our first full-fledged Family Science Festival. That would be on October 16th. That would be our Dragon Festival. We haven't made up our minds yet, but from a request from our kind of Dragon team on the VMNH Foundation, we're going to make this a 2-day festival. So whether we make that the 15th and 16th or 16th and 17th will be determined in the near future. So we're about ready to go back to fuller operations. We will provide at the board meeting an analysis of our operations during the pandemic. The short version of it is we had, a fraction of the attendance that we had. We were closed for a long period of time. We were open only 2 days a week and then 3 days a week. We did have on some days some strong attendance and so forth. But interestingly, because of our new revenue models, we actually earned revenue this past year despite being open a minority at a time. That was equivalent to what we used to make just a few years ago. So there was some good news to come out of it. The museum financially is in good shape right now, and we look forward to going forward with this new opening model, as well as our new safety protocols. So that's where we stand right now. I'm feeling pretty confident about things. Jennifer, I'd be glad to take questions, but I'll turn it over to you for the remainder of the agenda, unless anyone has any questions or comments.
This is Lisa. I'll just comment that I agree. That's a lot to feel good about.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me a year ago what things were going to look like this week, I wouldn't have painted this rosy of a picture. That's for sure.
Okay, so I guess we can move into item 4. Is there any new and old business to be brought up and discussed?
Jennifer, I just wanted to bring up with you, I think we talked about it already, but the University Partnerships Committee, our ad hoc committee, I don't know that it has a role anymore, but I'd be interested in Joe's opinion on that. And when you make your committee appointments, you may not need to re-up that one.
Tom, I wouldn't mind just keeping that around because we are working on a document and a couple of relationships right now. Actually, I think they're both with UVA, just by chance. But nonetheless, I wouldn't mind just at least having the committee together to at least review a document. We might not have to meet formally, but maybe at least for one more quarter, we could, kind of keep that active, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, I'll just bring it up because I'd want to make sure if we've still got a charge for that committee or not.
Yeah, I think we've done what we needed to do. This is just a kind of a short-term committee, an ad hoc committee that was meant to develop a method to further engage universities and take advantage of grant writing that goes on there, in particular with ways in which we can be involved as a mechanism of public outreach. I think our curators are already self-sufficient. They all have great relationships on the research front, but I think this is something that can bear fruit. So we'll hopefully get an update out about that, and maybe that's a committee that can sunset at the end of the calendar year.
Joe, was there anyone else that was rotating off this year or up for reappointment or anything? I know you mentioned Mukunda was reappointed.
That was it. So
Okay.
I of course will give you an update. We have some more reappointments. I don't remember if anyone in June of next year rolls off after their completion of a second term. So, but I'll certainly update that to you long in advance.
Okay. Any other new or old business?
Just for everybody's information, I'm getting the responses to the survey that I sent out through Joe, just to prepare an annual report for the August meeting. I've got about, I think, 5 responses, so I'm still waiting on some. So at some point, Joe, we may just need to send out a reminder. I mean, I can use what I got, and I will. And what I plan to do with that annual report is compile that together with some statistics on attendance. And as we were talking about earlier, the number of committee meetings held. And I don't know if there's anything else And I'm asking for opinions here that you would like to see included to kind of provide the annual report, which is a duty of the chairman.
Certainly not on my end, Tom, but I'm happy to review anything to see if there was anything missed, because there's a lot that went on the last 2 years, pandemic or not.
Yeah. And I think this is a good thing to do to, you know, since we're reviewing your performance, to review our own performance as trustees and as a board. And so that's really what I see as the outcome of this annual report, just give us a little opportunity to reflect on how we've done in the past year.
No, no. I have a different item if we're done with that.
Just one quick contribution. I had sent Joe and Tom another board evaluation document that I ran across literally this week on the ASAE discussion boards. And if nothing else, I was just sharing it in the hopes that it generates discussion and thought about, you know, what we may want to do as a next step. So I didn't know if we wanted to share that to the executive committee and just get some thoughts amongst ourselves, or just share it with everyone and see what they might think. But it gives some perspective on how other boards kind of assess their thoughts and performance and things that they take into account in operating in an open, above board, fully thought out fashion. So just a document to think about. I didn't know how far we wanted to share it, but I just offer that as a contribution.
Just as a start, Roberto, I'm happy to share that with the executive committee, and then give everyone a chance to review it, and that could be a point of discussion when we meet before the next board meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, Roberto, I saw your communications. I haven't had a chance to really spend time with it, but I will.
Yeah, no, I literally found it this morning, so no.
Yeah.
Lisa, did you have something?
Yes, it's not anything huge. It's just, it seems like the August 20th meeting is going to be the first time we're going to meet in person forever. And I wonder if we just shouldn't do something to, I don't know, commemorate that, have coffee or cake, or I don't know, something nice. Welcome back. We missed you, something. So it's an idea. I don't have a solution, but I do think somehow we should celebrate being back together in person somehow.
Traditionally, at board meetings, because we had at least half of you coming from a significant different distance, and a number of you staying overnight at a local hotel or something along those lines. So I guess what I'm getting at is that I'll send out a poll. I got to send out a poll anyway to find out who's going to be attending, but I can find out who's going to need overnight accommodations. I'd always attempted to make some kind of opportunity to gather for a dinner or something like that. That would be the low-hanging fruit. Lisa, if there's something in particular else you want, we could also do something like, maybe we could get a Virginia winery to provide a couple of 3 bottles of wine or something like that. We could have a little celebration here at VMNH at the end of the day, and meet up at a restaurant or something along those lines. And that way we could also invite the people who are more local who might want to participate as well.
Yeah, I
think
like that
something-
idea, Joe.
Yeah, I like it too.
Thanks for bringing that up, Lisa.
No problem. I've missed you guys. I hate not seeing you. The Zoom thing is terrible.
I know it's awful. It's been okay, but
All right, looks like we got thumbs ups and everything else. So I'll let you all know how all that transpires.
do we have anything else from a new or old business standpoint? Anybody got any other comments? Nothing else from Joe?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I'll just say, as you know, as the past chair, if anybody has questions about their role on the executive committee or how we conduct our business, I'm happy to, consult with you one-on-one. I think this is a great thing that we've done here just to kind of help with the transition. And, I'm here to support you in any way you think I can.
And Tom, I really appreciate you taking time to stop by in Danville so we could meet face to face on your travels. That helped a lot. All right. Well, hearing nothing else, and I guess
It is good to know. I'm sorry, there's something.
No, go
just
ahead,
quick
Lisa.
though. It is good to know that you typically meet at 4:00 on Friday afternoons. If you just want to confirm that, because I typically travel down on Friday afternoon, so now I'll have to travel down on Friday morning. So can you just confirm that typically you meet Friday afternoons? Is that the way it works?
That is typically what we do. I mean, if the the executive committee wants to entertain a different meeting time, I think we're open to that. There have been times where we have met early right before the board meeting. So, I'm sort of open.
I'm not suggesting a difference. I just wanted to know. So
No,
that's
no,
just
no.
helpful to know. Is it
I think
is it typical?
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought, pre-pandemic that we usually met right before the board meeting, early in the morning, and then everyone would go to their committee meetings, and then we would have the board meeting. I think we had been doing the Friday during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Is that right, Joe?
I think there was a change, maybe even pre-pandemic, to move it to Friday. I think there was, people felt a little squeezed trying to get the executive committee as well as the other committee meetings in before the full board meeting. So I think that's one of the things we did. And it used to be also that the committees like the education committee would meet on Friday afternoons, and then the executive committee would meet Saturday mornings, and we kind of swapped places on that. And I don't remember exactly why. So there's no, there's no requirement that we stay with that schedule. If people want to do something different, we certainly can. And,
It was
I'm
scheduled.
open to it.
It was scheduled. So, we had Janet Scheid not being able to do Friday afternoons. So we moved it to Friday morning. And then, frankly, the reason education committee moved to Friday was we were running out of Zoom space. We had a certain number of accounts or something like that, and we can only run so many meetings at once. So we were just kind of juggling around. So however you want to, it's up to you and your schedules. I like it personally better meeting on Friday because I'm usually given homework, and having an evening to try to figure things out as opposed to 15 minutes is a lot better for me. But I can
You do
it.
well on your feet though, Joe, but I understand. So, I mean, if everyone is okay with, keeping it at Fridays at 4, then we can move forward with that, or unless people want to think about that and provide some feedback, y'all let me know what works.
As someone who's traveling out of town, I'm happy to do it at 4:00. It's fine. I'll just plan to come a little early and then, have the social event afterwards and go to the hotel.
Yeah, I apologize for missing the beginning here with my laptop acting up, but I'll catch up on what I missed in terms of meeting attendance. But I'm getting the gist that these will be actually in person then before the general meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I as long as I know I can try, I drive down early or whatever. So I'll do what has to be done.
So I guess let's go with the 4:00 on Friday. Cause I mean, it is a push. On Saturday, and I know everybody wants to, have the committee meetings and get done as soon as we can.
Okay, well, I'll send out a poll, and I'll let everyone know what attendance looks like. Otherwise, I think we're good. Nathan,
Yeah.
I'll type up some notes and send them to you. and we'll just take things from there for minutes. Otherwise, we're good.
Okay, well, then I will say we're adjourned, and I guess I'll see everybody in August.
All right.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Later. Thanks, all.